Okay, let's continue with our image acquisition gateway talk. So modalities, gateway, PACS. Modalities of the acquisition gateway use DICOM connections to transfer images. This is why you had to do a whole DICOM class, because the modality here, which is the SCU, is going to use the DICOM TCP IP connection on the network to talk to the DICOM server or gateway, which will be the SCP or service class provider, providing C storage. So you have C store request, C store provider, and eventually it will store the images in PACS on the NAS. So, in summary, the PACS acquisition gateway is essentially an inbound lane for images to travel into the PACS system. But how many inbound lanes do you need to get the images into PACS quickly? Look at this picture below and imagine each vehicle is a study. Is this going to be a good design? Obviously, the previous slide depicts a bad design where studies, aka vehicles, are waiting a long time to get into PACS. That would back up the workflow at the modalities, resulting in longer patient wait times. To determine how many DICOM servers you need in your PACS, you need to know what your highest inbound study flow rate is. The math is pretty simple. If your peak volume is from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. with 100 studies done in that hour, and a single DICOM server can process 25 exams per hour, then obviously you need 4 DICOM servers on your PACS system. Naturally, they'll be working at maximum capacity between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m., but the rest of the time, they will easily be able to handle the inbound traffic. So, 100 studies in 1 hour, a single DICOM server, 25, 100 divided by 25, is how I came up with 4. Now, while the math is easy, the solution design is a little more complicated. From the math, you know you need 4 DICOM servers. But now you need to think about which modalities will send to the DICOM server. For example, you might do something like I've drawn on the next slide. Take a close look at the design and consider what might happen if any one of the DICOM servers went down. Have I created a bunch of single points of failure? Should each modality have a backup DICOM server to send to? Is there an optional PACS component that I have completely left out? This week you'll be working on acquisition rate scenarios, and you should review my design on the next slide as an example of what not to do. I am intentionally showing you what not to do. Do not copy my design. So, a little converse logic here. If this is what not to do, then the opposite of what not to do should be the right thing to do. So, this is what not to do. And I'll explain why not to do this in a minute. So, I've got both MRs and both CTs going to DICOM 1. I've got both ultrasound units going to this DICOM server. I've got all of the X-ray going to DICOM server 3. I've got all the nuke med and all the mammo and all the bone density going to DICOM 4. So imagine if DICOM 2 suddenly went down. If DICOM 2 is down, ultrasound can't send images to PACS. The entire ultrasound department, ultrasound 1 and 2, goes to this one server and into the NAS. So if this server goes down, this department is out of commission. So that's one reason this is a bad design. And when we get on to data generation, you'll see another reason this is a bad design. But I don't want to spoil the surprise, but just for acquisition rate, this is a terrible design. So, PACS acquisition rate summary. PACS acquisition rate is the rate at which studies flow into PACS. Studies come from the modality to the acquisition gateway servers, also called DICOM server. The PACS system has several DICOM servers. Most have 4 or 6. Each DICOM server should have a backup, so they are always configured in pairs. And I want to hit that point again. PACS system will have several DICOM servers. Most will have 4 or 6, and each DICOM server should have a backup so they are always configured in pairs. What I noticed in last year's class when we did this is they would make their design and they would have 5 primary DICOM servers and 1 backup server. You can't have 1 backup server to 5 primary servers. Each server. You'll have a primary server and a backup server. Primary server and a backup server. Now, the second server can be a primary for a different department and be a backup for another department. And that was really confusing. All right, what we need here is a drawing. Let me explain. Okay, so let me bring my paint down here. I'm on brushes. So let's say this is DICOM server 1. And this is DICOM server 2, right? And let's say I have 2 X-ray units. So X-ray 1 and X-ray 2 send to this DICOM server. And CT1 and CT, that's a T, CT2 send to this DICOM server. If this DICOM server goes down, well, I've just lost the entire X-ray department. They can't send anything. Right, so that's what I did in the diagram that I showed you where I did everything wrong. So here's a better way. Right, so I have DICOM server 1 and I have DICOM server 2 and I have X-ray 1 and I have CT1 and I have X-ray unit 2 and CT unit 2, and this one sends to here and this one sends to here, right? So first of all, if I lose this server, I still have a working X-ray unit and I still have a working CT unit. So the entire department doesn't go down. Okay, so this server goes down. I still have functionality in X-ray and CT until I can get that fixed. Now, what if this is the backup for these guys? Then I haven't lost anything. So DICOM server 2, to go back to my point about having a primary and a backup, DICOM server 2 could be the primary server for X-ray 2 and CT2, but it can also serve as the backup for X-ray 1 and CT1. So I can immediately have these two modalities fail over to send to the backup. Now, this server, is now going to have to do all the work. Instead of where it normally has 2 modalities sending through, it now has 4 modalities sending through, but at least I didn't lose anything other than this DICOM server. So when I say the servers are deployed in pairs, it can be the primary for some modalities and the backup for other modalities, but they are always configured in pairs. It's important that the DICOM server quickly process the study and store it in PACS to keep the workflow from backing up, which increases wait times. The DICOM server does not change the image quality. You need to have enough DICOM servers to handle the busiest hour of the day. And how you design the study send flow from the modalities to the acquisition gateway servers has a big impact on how resilient the system is and how many times you get called because modalities can't send to PACS. And I know this second part ran long, but thank you for watching.